So you might be thinking, what do I need to get going with a zine? Well, the answer is whatever you want to use, really. So some people use only drawings, illustrations. Some people use photographs, like myself. And some people use found material, and that's just meaning things that you come across, like bus tickets and letters and maps and things like that. Equally, you could do a mixture of these things and use collage and mark making. Some essentials or nice to haves. A cutting mat if you're going to be using anything other than scissors, but it doesn't even have to be a cutting mat. Just make sure it's not like, you know, the best dining table or you know, a table you've borrowed from somewhere, or, you know, a cafe in town, because they're not going to appreciate any sort of cutting marks from your zine making. Next thing, trusty old glue stick. It's good to have two types of glue. It's good to have this one, and it's good to have school glue, PVA glue, because things like binding covers on, you'll need a stronger glue than a glue stick. You'll just keep it with that little bit of adhesive. So a good pair of scissors to cut things out. You might want to collage, you might want to cut little shapes, you might want a smaller piece of pair of scissors just to get your bits of zine together. If it's safe to do so and you have access to it, and of course if you're supervised, if you're of an age where you need to be supervised with zine making things, then a cutting scalpel can be quite useful if you start to do quite intricate work. But of course I don't recommend this if you're just starting out, but as you progress into collage it can be quite useful. The other thing that I think is really good is to start looking out for found material. So I mentioned that in the previous video. So in charity shops you might find like nice old postcards and things that you can cut out. So these are old pockets where people used to get their photographs developed. Bits of writing that I found in books from other people. That's always makes a nice backdrop for a zine. What else have I got in here? Paper bags. So when you've eaten something and you think, oh, I quite like the colour of that, keep it, 'cause you never know when it's going to come in handy for zine making. And a lot of people say, well, what do you make your zines about? But I always try and make sure that each one of them got a little bit of an ongoing theme. That was the whole sort of history behind zines, that they were used to deliver messages, usually political or activism based stuff. But, you know, little Christmas presents that things come in. But literally anything. So again, some old cards. And then I do have a thing about collecting maps. So when we went on a holiday to Tokyo a long time ago, just keep the map, and you never know, you know, you might just start to use it. You might use a little bit of it. Equally, they're really cheap to pick up in charity shops. So if you do get into your zine making, then that's a good tip. But if you're just starting out and you're just thinking, well, I haven't got all of those things, then any newspaper, any scraps of card, any sort of paper, you can make marks on paper. So you might make a sheet of, I'll do one whilst I'm talking to you. So you might just make a lot of marks all over a page. For example, like this. And then that might become part of your collage, might become part of your zine. So if you cut this out, I'm doing it very quickly, but then you've got a nice shape that you can use in your zine. And collectively, all this comes together and it'll paint a really nice picture of you as a zine maker.